If you're a dancer who travels for events and you're vegan or you're gluten-free or you have a special diet, you already know that hotel food is expensive, limited, and stressful. So today I'm going to be talking to you about how I meal prep all of my meals for competitions when I travel, whether that's driving or flying. And this is with short distance travel. I haven't tested this with longer distance. I think the longest amount of travel time was 6 hours door to door. So I'll be sharing with you how I prep my meals for events so that I can spend more of my time at the event focused on dancing instead of on food logistics. And if you're new here, my name is Corinne. I'm a dancer, I'm vegan, I love dogs, I like movement and creativity, I like learning about health. So if any of those resonate with you and you want to see more, make sure to click the subscribe button so that you'll be alerted for future videos. So let's talk about why I meal prep for dance events. Let's first go over kind of some of the logistics and barriers of dance events. So number one is that dance events are very busy. There's something going on pretty much 24/7 for 3.5 days. And I don't always know when I'm going to be dancing or when I'm going to have a break. So that makes it a little bit harder to plan meals. I also like to be pretty consistent about when I'm eating. I try not to delay my meals too much because on days when I do delay and I don't eat on time, then I usually don't eat enough in total for the day. And unfortunately, that does happen frequently for me at dance events. Oftentimes, I'll only eat 2 full meals and then snacks, again, just because of the busyness. So if I'm already struggling to eat that much, having to like sit down at a restaurant or try to order food and make sure that the food gets to me on time, it just makes that a little bit more hectic. Dance events are also very demanding physically in that you are busy doing some kind of activity all day for 3 days. Even if you're sitting and watching, you're expending less calories, but you're still, like, at least for me, putting out a lot of energy. I'm cheering people on. I might be cold in the ballroom, so my body might be working more to stay warm if I don't have enough, like a heavy enough jacket, things like that. So they are just very demanding because there's so much activity, and also I'm dancing a lot. So I want to make sure that I'm well fed as best as possible and having options available for me. And then, as I mentioned earlier, hotels don't always have that many options, especially for people who have more dietary restrictions. So again, me being vegan, let's say you're gluten-free or you have particular allergies, or maybe you're really set on achieving your health goals and you're following your own meal plan, and deviating even for the weekend feels like it might risk your progress and momentum. Those might be reasons as to why you might want to try this. So now let's talk about ordering food. If I were to order in, say, from outside restaurants, ordering food requires more time. You have to be able to research it and know where you're going to order food from. Then you have to order, then you have to wait for it. And by the time it gets to you, you might be like in the next heat, you might be dancing. So schedules are not always exact at dance events. So having food available when you need it might be harder if you're relying on having food brought in. And then the last thing is that ordering food is more expensive. You're paying a higher price per meal, having it brought in, having to take into account for like tips, service fees, things like that. So let's go over some of the benefits of meal planning, meal prepping, and bringing your own food to events. One of the main ones for me is that I can make sure that I have enough food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plus snacks. I can make sure that I'm getting enough protein for each meal and throughout the day, making sure that I'm getting enough healthy fats. And with that too, that allows me to stay more energized because I have food available there when I need it. Meal prepping and bringing my food with me also helps me to decrease stress. Like I'm not having to worry about food logistics and making sure that I have enough to eat because it's already there. So that takes out, kind of decision fatigue and having to search for options. And then it also is more cost effective. All right, so let's go over the tools that I use to make this happen. The first thing is Super Cubes, and these come in different sizes. This is a particular brand. This is the 2-cup molds. You get 2 of them. Then there's a 1-cup molds, and then I also have the 1/2-cup molds. So here's an example. I have lentil stew in here right now. So I can just pop this out very easily and reheat that. And they each come with a lid. So typically, like if I make a stew, like this lentil stew, I can get 8 to 10 1-cup servings out of it. And what's nice about these two with the lid, it makes them easy to stack on top of each other in the freezer. So you can freeze a lot of things at once. These smaller ones, the 1/2-cup, I would use for sides. So for rice or beans or quinoa, that's typically what I put in here. And then the 2-cup mold I'll use for like a dinner, like a full meal, essentially. So the next thing I use is a vacuum sealer. This was very inexpensive off of Amazon. I'll link these things below for you. I got the cubes on Amazon as well. And then these Food Saver bags, I think I got at Target, but I'll see if there's a link for Amazon as well. So these are 1-quart bags. That's how big they are. And this is like, I would say, a medium texture. So on like a vacuum sealer, it might ask you like the thickness or the texture of the bag. I would say this is like a medium thickness bag. So the reason I use the vacuum sealer in the bags is because I don't have to worry about leaks. It keeps each meal separate. And then everything's frozen, so I'm able to get through security. I'm not carrying any liquids with me that I would have to, throw out at security. And then, of course, it also just helps to keep the food fresh. So then once I have all of my meals prepped, they're each in their own individual bag and vacuum sealed, then I will put them in a insulated bag. This is very cheap, $1.25 from the Dollar Tree, I believe. So I'll just put all of the vacuum sealed bags in the insulated bag, seal it, and then I'll carry it in my backpack as a carry-on. And then I will bring scissors and pack that in my checked luggage, so that way I can open the vacuum sealed bags. And just a tip too, if you've never used a vacuum sealer, when you're sealing food, you want to leave it open and let the heating element cool for about 30 seconds before you seal the next bag. Because if the heating element gets too hot, it can melt the bag too much so that it actually doesn't seal. So at that point you could have leaks in the bag. So just make sure you're giving time in between sealing for that heating element to cool. So let's talk about breakfast. What do I typically make for breakfast when I'm meal prepping and taking this to an event? So usually I will make a vegan just egg frittata. And I will use these mini sheet pans. And then I'll put a piece of parchment paper down, put some vegetables in the bottom like chopped zucchini, bell pepper. I also like to use half a package of Light Life bacon, which is made from, what is it made from? I think it's made from like Vital Wheat gluten. So bacon alternative for vegan people. And then I'll use 1 carton of Just Egg for the like mini pan. I will bake it in the oven at 350 for 25 to 35 minutes. Then I will trim the parchment paper down so none of it is showing, so that I can then put it back in to broil for a couple minutes on each side. If you have parchment paper sticking out, it will burn and catch fire. So definitely don't want to create any fires. If you're using parchment paper, make sure to trim that down. So then once I've broiled both sides to give it a little color, get some like areas of crispiness, then I will score it into 4 sections and let it cool on the counter. And then once it's cool, I will either put this in the freezer or I'll put it in a Tupperware and I'll separate each piece with a small little square of parchment paper so they don't stick. Then I will also roast tri-colored sweet potatoes. I'll dice those up, roast them with whatever seasoning I'm in the mood for, and then let those cool on the counter as well. Then once those are cooled, I'll also put the tri-colored sweet potatoes into a Tupperware and freeze them. So those things are both frozen. Then once they're frozen, I will take a bag. I will put a square or a rectangle of my Just Egg frittata in here. I'll dump a handful of the tri-colored sweet potatoes. Then I will vacuum seal it. So there's my breakfast in one bag for one day. So if I'm going for 3 days and I need 3 breakfasts, I'll make 3 of those. Let's see. So with that, I will also bring Ezekiel toast. I like that because it's like a sprouted multigrain bread. So there's a lot of like good micronutrients in there. And then that also helps to boost the protein of the meal. And then I will bring avocados fresh and usually eat half an avocado with my breakfast and half an avocado with dinner. And a lot of hotels have a microwave and a toaster, so I can usually make like a little vegan egg breakfast sandwich with my sweet potatoes and avocado on the side. So now let's talk about lunch. I showed you earlier the super cube with the lentil stew in it, so that's like my comfort soup, comfort stew now. And I typically make that about twice a month just because I love to have it on hand. It's great for when I'm tired and I haven't meal prepped and I don't feel like cooking and I want something like wholesome and comforting to eat. That's usually what I reach for. So I will cook the stew, let it cool on the counter, or maybe let it finish cooling in the fridge. And then the next day, typically, I will portion it out into the super cubes. And I have 2 of those, I have 2 of these trays with the 1 cup measure. So I'll freeze 8 portions at a time. And then I typically have like 2 or 3 portions in the fridge that don't fit in there. And I'll eat those, pretty much immediately over the next day or 2. And then I always have stew in the fridge. And then I don't typically add any extra protein to the stew because sometimes I like to switch up what I'm eating. So if I'm eating it at home, for example, for dinner, I might want to cut up like a quarter block of high protein tofu and toss that with like garlic powder and onion and soy sauce, and then put it in the air fryer for some like crispy tofu bites on the side of my stew. And then I might have some like sourdough bread with it as well, some toasted sourdough bread. But when I'm traveling, what I typically do is I will bring a bag of textured vegetable protein. I prefer the ones made from pea protein over soy protein. And I'll add like 1/4 to 1/2 cup of TVP into my soup to boost the protein. And then I'll also bring snacks that I can eat in between meals. So some snacks that I like to bring are fruit leathers, nuts, apples, cuties, protein bars. So those are all easy to grab. Nothing has to be reheated. I don't have to worry about getting through TSA with them. So those are good go-to snacks to bring. So once I have my frozen cubes of stew, I will put 1 cube in each bag, vacuum seal it, and then they all go in the freezer until I'm ready to leave the house, and then that's when I will put them in the insulated bag and then in my backpack. So let's talk about what I eat for dinner. For dinner, I like to make like essentially a Buddha bowl using the 2-cup super cube. So I'll typically put, I usually eat like a 1/4 block of high protein tofu at a meal, like per meal, whenever I'm using tofu. So I'll cut the tofu up into cubes and put that in the bottom of the super cube. So I'll have that be like the bottom layer in here. Then I'll probably like let me change this again. Then I will like saute some vegetables in some sort of sauce, like maybe teriyaki sauce. And then I'll pour that on top of the tofu once it's cooled. So that way the tofu can kind of soak in more of the sauce. This is the lazy way. I'm telling you the lazy way first, where I don't do anything to the tofu first. I just put it directly in here cold and just cut up. I haven't cooked it. So that's when I'm rushing and I haven't fully meal prepped. Obviously it's better if I like fully cook the tofu in a sauce already, but that's a little cheat if you're rushing or run out of time. Yeah, so then sauce and veggies go on top of that. Then I will also cook like brown rice or brown rice quinoa mix, and then I'll layer that on top. So then each cube is a full meal. And what I've seen other people do online as well is they will take these 1/2 cup measures, and each 1/2 cup will be like a different ingredient. So let's say you did like brown rice, and then you took all the brown rice cubes out, and then you made something else, like you made beans, and then you took that out, and then you picked a 3rd ingredient. I believe you can put like 3 of these within this. So that's another way you could make a meal in like components if you didn't want to put it all in here together at once like I do. And then I will also eat the other half of the avocado. So I'll bring 1 avocado per day, eat 1/2 at breakfast and 1/2 at dinner. So let's review why this works, at least for me, and maybe for you, again, if you have dietary restrictions or preferences. It helps me to stay balanced. I can make sure that I have enough food that I'll be full. It decreases decision fatigue and having to manage food logistics while I'm at an event. And then these things are also easy to reheat. I don't have to worry about going to the store to get certain ingredients. I've literally brought everything with me. The only thing I need is to use the hotel's microwave and toaster, and then use their silverware plates and bowls, assuming they have a restaurant. If they don't, I will bring a glass Tupperware with like a locking lid. So I will show you. Okay, so for example, these Snapware is actually my favorite brand. So this will lock shut, and that way then I'm not heating plastic Tupperware. So glass is safer to heat and eat food out of than plastic. And then having a locking lid is nice, so then it can just help to keep your food fresh. I can use this to store my half an avocado during the day before I get to dinner. But I haven't really had to do that. I think I've only had to do that once, where I brought my own container and then I just pack it carefully with all my clothes wrapped around it so it doesn't break. So let's review again what I bring additional. So I have my insulated bag filled with all the frozen components, meals, etc. And then I also bring snacks or additions to add to my meals. So I bring Ezekiel bread to eat with my breakfast. I bring apples and sometimes cuties for snacks, nuts, fruit leathers. I actually also love to bring chocolate. I love Hu chocolate, the vegan ones. I think it's called Hu, H-U is how it's spelled. And then I actually also love to bring Smart Sweets. It's a vegan candy. I don't eat candy all that often, but whenever I travel, it's one of the times I get it as like a treat. So I bring those, and then I don't know if I said avocado. I can't remember if I forgot that or not. And protein bars. So that's something easy I can eat in between dance events or like events within the dance event. Like if there's, I guess I should say competitions. I can eat a protein bar quickly between like competitions if I feel like I'm running out of energy and I need more food before I can get to a full meal. So as I mentioned earlier, I carry all my food in my backpack, in my carry-on, and then I also check a bag. The reason I check a bag is because usually I need that much space to pack all the things I need for a dance event. I have different like outfits or costumes for competing. I have multiple dance shoes that I wear. Then I have street clothes, pajamas, toiletries, etc. So I usually need more than just like carry-on size for clothes. So I just accept that if I'm going to a dance event, I'm going to be paying to check a bag. So the last time I checked a bag, it was $35 each way. So $70 additional to whatever I spent at the grocery store to make all of the food, which is what I would be doing anyway if I were at home. So I'm spending $70 extra, essentially. Versus if I were to, say, order in using a delivery service. Let's see, vegan meals are $18 to $25 per meal, plus fees, plus tip. That puts it at about $25 to $30 per meal. Times 9 meals is $225 or $270. And then there's also a little bit of risk there, depending on how sensitive you are and your dietary needs. If eating foods that are outside your regular routine are going to be disruptive to your digestion, your nervous system, etc., you can weigh up the pros and cons as to if that would be worth it for you or not. Like where's the greater risk and or payoff, and what's going to work best for you when you're traveling. So the other piece of this is that there's a habit shift involved. And that is being able to prep these things ahead of time. So for me, I already am used to using super cubes and saving food in the freezer or cooking extra so that I'm not having to cook as frequently. I make that stew every 2 weeks. I almost always have cubes of stew in the freezer that I can heat up if I'm hungry and not wanting to cook. So that might be a bit of a transition for you if you don't already do this. Another thing that I did at the last event because I didn't have as much in the freezer, I was kind of behind. So I started thinking about it and preparing and writing my list about 3 weeks in advance so that I could easily start prepping things over those next 3 weekends, because I typically meal prep on the weekend. So that way I wouldn't be like stressed all at once, you know, the week of the event. So again, something to think about. So thanks so much for watching this video. If you have done this before, or if you want to try it, let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have any questions. Another breakfast idea that I actually thought of, I thought of 2 other breakfast ideas that I wanted to try. One is protein pancakes, and then the second is overnight oats. I've thought of doing that before, but before I had the super cubes, it was too, like, I would still have to spend more money, like to go to the store to get Ripple or soy milk. Ripple is a pea protein milk, if you're not familiar. So using like a cup of either of those milks adds another 8 grams of protein to my breakfast. And then I normally like to add chia seeds and like almond butter or peanut butter, and then berries and bananas. So berries I would need to buy fresh or get from the hotel, which a bowl of berries from the hotel might be like, I don't know, I'm gonna guess $10 or $12. So then that's what, $30 in berries for breakfast. But if I were really set on that, if I were like bored of eating my just egg frittatas at events, I could use the 2-cup molds and freeze like my extras in there, and then bring dry rolled oats and bring a container. So that way they could sit overnight each day and be ready for breakfast. But fruit, gosh, yeah, I don't think I would like frozen berries in there. This is where I got stuck, was what do I do about the fruit? So maybe along with scissors, I could pack a knife that has one of those like plastic shields on it, so that way it's safe in my my checked luggage. And then I could maybe cut up apples. Oh, and I could put cinnamon, maybe cinnamon in like my frozen cube of milk. And yeah, and then protein pancakes would be easy because pancakes and waffles freeze pretty well. So, and I could cook in the syrup, so I don't have to worry about bringing syrup. Or I bet the hotel would have syrup. So anyway, yeah, it does require thinking through what you want to eat and what you need to freeze versus bring fresh versus what you can get at the hotel. But I love eating a vegan diet, so for me, it's worth it, and it helps me save money. So I would really appreciate it if you could give this video a like, leave a comment, and I hope you have a really wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.